Okay, let's get started. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Sorry, a lot of you are joining over the Zoom today. Hope you all healthy and sounding okay. So can you all see the screen that I'm showing? Nick, Jennifer, give me a thumbs up if you can see the slides. Okay, Jen. Thanks, Jen. Good responding. All right, today we're gonna keep this lecture a little bit short, and then we're gonna skip the in-class exercise a little bit because some of us are going for the movie premiere. Let's call it a field trip or something, and I still have tickets left. So for those of you who haven't bought the ticket and wanted to go, welcome to talk to me after. All right, so prototyping, nothing really that quite new, okay? So pull up the Pull Everywhere link, please. As usual, let's start the first poll of the day. What's the one thing from the past week that brought you joy? I can say I landed in LA around 7:30 a.m. today from New York. So I had time to go to gym and do everything. So awesome. It was a quick trip. Not a quick trip. I left for Canada and then New York and then back now. So on time. So sometimes I'm very nervous about, all these flights. Are they canceled or are they delayed? I won't catch the class, but that definitely brought me joy. So I'd like to hear yours. To step into this class. Food. Okay, good. Give me more. So that's parent weekend. That's great. Awesome. Family weekend too. Yeah, I can't wait. And my mom's having his 60th birthday. It's a big deal in Chinese culture. So I gotta go for that in 2 weeks. So okay, so let's get on the topic. So coming back, so remember this funnel from the beginning of the semester? We talked about we're starting from the ideation and then we go to wireframes, which is low fidelity works that we done. And then we started working on more of the mockups, right? So starting last lecture, we already having you jumping into the prototyping itself. So obviously mockups is more of low, medium fidelity products. And starting prototypes and engineering is definitely high fidelity. So prototypes ought to look like your actual product, okay? So the differences between wireframes, mockups, and versus prototype, by now I think a lot of you definitely have some ideas and a lot of ideas, right? So speak it out. Give me some words that I will differentiate the three of them. Any? Friend, say something.
Wireframing is when you come up with versions of like what you're what you're building, but in a more simple. So like black and white.
Wireframe is very basic, yes.
Prototype is when you make it look pretty and connect it all together instead of like.
Totally, I agree. And what? So it shows almost full functionality, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so great. Let's. So here's how it looks like, right? So sometimes people get a little confused about what the mockup should look like in the real one, isn't it? No, it's not necessarily, right? So prototypes adds a much more details, all the fancy stuff, right? All the accordions, the transitions, animations, and make sure you present your product as a full. It's a full present of your product. Versus mockups, just get an idea. Hey, how it's going to look like. You want to change it? Let's change it. Versus prototypes, you need to spend a lot of time building it, and that's the actual product it should look like, right? So, And also for wireframes and mockups, those are what? Static or dynamic? Static, right? So it's not really working. It's not, as I mentioned, there's no transitions, there's no automations. Versus prototypes, it should have actions on it. When you click on the buttons, it will jump to different pages, right? So it will give you some reactions to it. Whether it's the actual functions it should present, like how to fake a prototype, we'll talk about that in a little bit too. So even though the prototype should look like how it looked like in as a real life, you can also fake it too. So let's talk about that in a bit too. Okay, so and also for wireframes and mockups, we want to show more of the structure of the product, right? We want to see the sections and then just give the general idea. Versus prototypes, we want to focus on showing the functions, how it works, right? So people get an idea about not this is the structure of the project. This is how I'm going to use the product. Sorry. So structure and ideation, more of the kind of giving the product owner the idea versus prototyping is having them test out the functionality. Okay, pool number 2 is coming. Activate. So yes or no question. Prototypes should not look too close to the final product. I shouldn't show the final answer on the screen. So let you answer it first before we. So prototypes should not look too close to the final product. It's a no-brainer, right? So prototypes should look like a final product, and you should literally, that's your trick, is to make it more look like a final product, so you can actually test out your product, how it's going to work or not. People won't wonder this is working or not. They should really think about this is a working product, and you observe them while they're using it to see whether your product is actually going to work or not, right? So don't make them think that it's not a final product. Okay. And let's lay down a little bit more lines between the difference between the wireframes and the prototypes, right? Low fidelity, high fidelity, we already talked about it. To build it, it's a lot cheaper to build a wireframe versus building a prototype is relatively expensive, right? Depending on how you're going to do it, which we're going to talk about a little bit. And wireframes can be iterative. Prototype sometimes takes longer, but we try to keep it within a weekly sprint as well. And definitely we're using real content for the prototypes and dynamic and interaction versus static elements, UI elements. All right, so now how to make this happen? This is some of the software we probably used it before, Figma. You can actually build a flow based on your mockups, right? So high fidelity mockups, and it can create a transition between one element to another element, but you're not actually building out the product. Prototype as a keyword, as the word itself, in the industry, it means a real product prototyping a real product. So you're taking one piece of your actual product and present it. But in our web application purposes, we want to fake it as much as we can without allowing the users to understanding or realizing it's not a real product. So you can make it really fake by adding all these different animations, and don't get confused, right? So when they click on this one, it will go that section, etc. Essentially you're building your animation logic within this flow, and you can later on convert it to a actual engineering front end logic, right? But it gets a bit confusing when you get too much elements going on. So that you can get it done though, using a software. Now, nowadays, like 10 years ago, I would say barely you can do this. Now, it will be a waste if you're not doing it this way, just much faster and easier, okay? Another poll coming up. What's the main difference between wireframes and prototypes? We just talked about it, and I want to get away from the slides before I ask you that question. Very simple. And I just noticed that it's a single choice, right? It's not a multiple choice. I'm sorry. So whatever your answer is correct. I'm not gonna grade you down for that anyway. So yes, all three of them, right? So low fidelity versus high fidelity, they're not both cheap to produce. So the second one was wrong, and prototypes are interactive. So the number 1 and 3 are the correct answers. All right. So what are the goals and the benefits of prototyping first? Why don't we just build the actual product and launch it? Right? Any guess, Xenia?
I guess you need a like user test where it's if there are things that you need to work on and you want to be changing.
Great. Getting user feedbacks, get user tests, right? Any other? All right.
It's just that it is expensive to develop product before you like validate it with users and like validate that it's like feasible like to market idea. So
Yes. Sorry, what's your name again?
Megan.
Huh?
Megan.
Megan. Okay. All right. So okay, I gotta recognize you next time we wear masks too. So okay, Megan said yes, it's cheaper to just to test it, right? So to build it, you don't have to build the full product. Especially when we use the product to configure the animation and floats. Okay. Any other guess? All right. So we want to gather some feedbacks. We want to predict the market, right? Remember, I mentioned it a little bit. About 10 years ago, we were launching fake Facebook ads to test whether people want this product or not, right? So if people never click on the ads, your product probably will not be successful, and at least not to the target audience you're launching your ads to, correct? So getting a prototype is really to see if people actually click on the subscribe button and actually going to pay you for that. That's getting the market feedback. You don't want to build something that's not sellable unless you're doing charities, right? So charities, you want donations, so people want you to change the world that way, right? So getting the prediction of the market. Core functionality, we want to test it. And also we want to test out the designs too. And then 6 times an iterative improvements. And look at those 2 pictures, right? The 2 old style prototyping, and in the industry is actually building out some real product, portion of the real product. And this is the early iPhone prototype before it actually launched. For those of you who are old enough to remember, I was 2007. Jobs, when he first presented the iPhone, it was not a fully working product. It was not a fully working product, and he launched it on WWDC, and it gathered enough attention to the market to get more money and stock raised, and he launched the first ever iPhone and changed the entire world that way, right? That's how powerful a prototype can be. if you're really utilizing it the right way, right? So that's how powerful it can be. Any questions so far? All right, pretty straightforward, right? So next one, we're gonna talk about the tools for prototyping. A lot of you probably already can remember like the tools that we talked about before, right? Give me a couple names. What can do prototyping? Right. Figma, yes. Any other ones? Remember? Sketch, that's another one. Awesome. Another one.
Envision.
Envision, awesome. Right, that's definitely the three. Any other guess that we can use? Okay, so we talked about Figma, we talked about Envision, right? And we talked about Sketch. Bingo, all three of you said it all correctly. And there's another one, Adobe XE. Rarely anybody uses it, I guess. Anybody used it? Okay, great, awesome. Sorry, what's your name one more time? Faith, sorry, yeah. Bad at names, but I'll remember. And the last one, who can guess what's the last one? Coding. Literally, you can just code it out, right? So I know sometimes it's more, it takes a little bit more work to get it done, but some of your computer science major thinking ahead, no, it's faster for me to code it out rather than you asking me to do it in Figma or Sketch. I'm that way, right? I'm totally not a designer myself. If you ask me to do it in Figma, I'd rather just say, hey, let me find a template and just code it out for you if it's a simple one, right? So, if you actually want to code out everything, that's not possible. But for some of the prototypes, coding does work, especially for some simple log in, log out, this common functions you can find, common features you can find online. You can just pull a template and start tweaking it a little bit, and it's as real as it can get because it's the actual product, right? Okay, so don't forget, you can always use coding, and you can mix the two when you use Figma. You can generate the code and put it on the website, and you can tweak it a little bit as well, right? So don't forget the coding is a tool. Okay, so another poll is coming. Poll number 4, which is a benefit of prototyping. Great, awesome. Well, no matter what you answer is correct, right? So all of the above is correct, and so what is a benefit that's a benefit of a prototyping? So if you select one of them, it's fine, right? So all 4 answers are correct. It does help market prediction, not marketplace. Sorry. So yes, market prediction, accurate usability testing, and limited miscommunication. That's a little point that we didn't touch upon just a little earlier. If you present your prototypes to your product owner, the earlier the better. Wireframes, mockups, prototypes, and it will surprise them less. It will require you less to change, right? So that's poll number 4. And poll number 5. Oh, jumping the screens before you can answer it. Okay, so tools that you can use to create web application prototypes. Select all that apply. Still a single select. Oh, okay, I gotta make this, note this. Fix all the poll everywhere for this. Okay. Yeah, nobody really liked the invasion, huh? Nobody selected it. Okay, so yes, all four of them are working. That's poll number 5. Followed by a simple one. Yes or no? Is it okay to use some coding to build a prototype? Poll number 6. Is it okay to use some of the coding to build a prototype? All right, all of you get it right. It's yes, as an engineer, preserve the rights to use coding to do prototypes. Okay, just kidding. I'll learn better on design tools. All right, so here we go. Some of the words from the industry, and actually I could put all 3 of the words from our previous alumni from our class. All of them graduated from ITP-460. And here's our words. So that's from Carolyn. Carolyn Yu, I think she went to our class. She was in our class back in 2020 or 2019. So keep your designs consistent and have a style guide. Make sure everyone is similar with the CSS to avoid repeated and inconsistent styling for elements. And the second line that she said was the project manager or design lead should go over everyone's work during the daily stand-up. And if you haven't bumped into some problems building the site yet, you will. And it's good to actually just scan it through, not creating too much work for each of the group lead or product owner, right? So I mean, sorry, project owner. But it's good to go over that a little bit, unless unless you want a big surprise at the end of a sprint. So, and as a designer, a good advice for all the designers in our class who's going to take on a designer job in the future, keep your own art style, right? So it's which is readable to the industry. That's a good piece of advice as well. And yeah, what at the time that she gave me, I think she was working for, I don't know, she probably switched the job, so I can't remember. Annabelle, we all remember her from a couple classes before, right? So remember to take into account web accessibility standards when designing and prototypes. Example, color contrast to be large enough for colorblind users, detailed alt text for screen readers. And we don't have to introduce her one more time. She works here full-time at USC. And this is more piece of a UX, user experience advice now, right? So think about the minorities. And third one. So this is someone, because of the non-disclosure issue, because she's working at Disney right now, so we can't say who she is, but leverage your knowledge of the web development to create a design and prototypes that are within teach limitations and constraints. There's also a lot of accessibility standards for small things like motions and animations. And all of the slides have some links to it, right? So those are great resources. In the industry, we'll always call a term, don't reinvent the wheel. If you already seen there's elements and things out there, don't be shy to steal it, right? As long as it's an open license, right? So, and for our class purposes, everything should be open, right? So there's no such a thing called copyright when you're using it as an education purposes. So do not say there and I literally fired at least 2 engineers from my team because every time I tell him to go and look on Stack Overflow and grab this widget and use it, and he would just sit there for 2 more days and code it out. I said, why do you do this? He's like, I don't know. I said, you just wasted 2 engineering days on working on something that people probably already done it like that 1 million times. And the way that they built it is well known in the industry. So later on, when you collaborate with other teammates, they already know how the coding style is, and they know how to work on it easily, right? Versus you put it out and write it yourself, and this people had to reread your code, making sure there's no bugs, making sure the comments are okay, and making sure it works just as it will as a common standards in the industry, right? So don't do that, right? Make it easy and dirty. Go and grab them and use it. Okay, so we said we're gonna skip the individual exercise for today in class, which basically having each of you build a little prototype in InVision, since not all of you are liking the InVision app anyway. So this is shouldn't be hard. So we're skipping this. So this concludes our lecture content today. Any questions? No, not so far. Okay, well, let's talk about the assignment. Check to see if you all can see the link. Yeah, California, University of California, So assignment A, which is due next week, which is similar to assignment 7, right? So assignment 7 is due in 2 weeks. Assignment A is due in next week. Due next week as well. It's not an actual assignment, to be honest. It's just basically telling you that for assignment 7, we already said you have to submit your sprint report along with your submission. And assignment A, starting assignment A, probably for the rest of the semester, besides the milestone requirements, each week we just making sure that you're doing your meetings correctly, like daily scrums, sprint planning, sprint review, sprint retro, and submitting poker planning, obviously. Basically, this is the requirement of how you're actually going to submit your weekly sprint reports, including daily scrums, records, and poker planning, right? So we just want to keep track of you're doing work, you're doing fine. If you do bump into some group work and problems, we're getting harder and harder because we're going to start coding backend soon, right? So once we start getting the backend going, there will be engineering problems coming out, server problem coming out, system administration problem coming out. You can always feel free to come and talk to me and John. We'll get it, resolved. So this weekly sprint report is essentially part of your assignment 7. It's the same thing, right? You just need to take it out and submit it. And for future assignments, same thing. As long as it's a weekly sprint reports assignment, it's basically just submit your progresses to it. Any questions? And for assignment 7 and 8, you basically take whatever you have for assignment 7 and submit it for assignment 8, right? This is more detailed description about what's the requirement. Okay, so that's it for our class for today. Next, starting from now till I would say 6-ish, we'll do the group meetings. That's a group meeting time. All of you break into the group meetings. And for those of you who have some grades questions, come and talk to me. There's a chance that you can get your grades back, right? So don't skip that opportunity. And by around 6 p.m., then we're gonna go for the Joker 2 field trip. Yeah, okay.